Another nation has come, which means that we have yet another obstacle for Goku's journey. We have reached the 6th part of this saga, which thankfully sees more action for our protagonist compared to the previous 2. But before we can enter the Nation of War, let's go over the rules again. We can only use the Traveler. The weapons that are available for use are based off of the cutscenes, which means that we are using the Dull Blade. No co-op, and we can only use the nation's element for each region unless we have to swap to complete a puzzle. Now that we've reintroduced ourselves,
hey, it's me, Goku!
Let's see if we can beat Natlan only using the Traveler. We start our journey by tying up some loose ends in Fontaine. And by Fontaine, I actually mean Sumeru. We need to complete Fontaine Act 6 with our buddy Dan the Man. Basically, we just have to find Kari Bear, and the experience went like this.
Kari Bear!
No.
Kari Bear!
No.
Kari Bear!
That's okay, take your time.
But let's get to what you all want to see, my combat experience. First up, we had a Pyro Abyss Mage, and since we are in Sumeru, that means we can't use Hydro Traveler. Nope, we get to use Dendro Traveler again. So here's the fun part about this. Dendro does basically nothing to Pyro. I mean, it makes sense because you are trying to burn fire, and I respect the decision to make it like that, but even though I respect it, it doesn't mean I like it at all. Thankfully, my brain has expanded past the 2nd dimension, and I can now think in the 3-dimensional plane, because instead of spending probably roughly 17 minutes trying to destroy that shield with the level 1 Dull Blade, I looked at the top left and saw that we were near water. So I strategically ran away from the mage and tried to have it teleport into the river. Unfortunately though, he didn't fall for it. I guess he read the Art of War. But luckily for us, there is a pond near us, and slowly but surely, we were able to get him into the water. And heads up, I hope you like water because we're gonna be using a lot of it in this video. However, the fight doesn't end there.
He's right behind me, isn't he?
Because we actually have to hit the enemy itself. And since we only do an average of like 150 damage with our attacks when they have roughly 37k HP, the move here is to attack them up the hill, because if we spend too much time down here, the game thinks we're too far away from the mission point and the enemy will automatically teleport back there, recovering all of their health. Eventually, we did defeat the mage, but next we had to immediately fight it again alongside 2 cryo mages who also have a shield that can't be damaged by Dendro. This had to have been intentional. Now they watch these.
You naughty, you teasing me, you naughty.
But my brain remains in the 3rd dimension, and we decided to use the Pyro Mage to our advantage. Whenever the Pyro Mage does an attack, it doesn't put the fire on the ground. However, when it either teleports or does the special move, it does ignite the grass, making it so that the fire will burn the shields. Plus, we actually have a use for our abilities now because we can apply burning on these targets for more damage. Once we defeated the 2 Cryo Mages, we dealt with the Pyro Mage using the same method as the previous one, and we entered the next area of combat. This domain is a really good representation of what late game Goku is like. The sword is useless, so what most of these fights turn into is using the skill, running around, using the skill, running around, and then occasionally using the burst. That is the entire rotation for the Dendro Goku team comp. After the first group of enemies came a large mushroom, and I tried to outplay it by knocking it off the ledge, but sadly for me, there's not a bottomless pit there, so it just lived until we killed the smaller ones. Next was Ruin Guard, which is another example of our rotation since our sword is actually useless in this fight. I mean, seriously, you can barely see the yellow on the health bar when we hit him. The battle became much easier for us once it got stuck over there and only stomped on the ground. I don't know why, but we were able to get a lot of damage done here on it for free. Lastly in this quest, we have the Cryo Abyss Herald. I tried so hard to avoid this fight, I really did. I tried to get him off the map, but the game would not let me do it. They did not want me to cheese this fight so badly. So we had to win this fair and square, with my abilities being as useful as Tits on a Fly and a level 1 Dull Blade. And I am not really happy to report that after 1 hour, we did manage to beat this enemy and finally end the Fontaine Archon quest. But now we can start Natlan, a new adventure. That's how they typed it, so I'm gonna read it like that. They had the exclamation mark. And I really want you to pay attention to this part. As you can see, I clicked on the focused experience mode, and that means that right now we are in a focused experience on the main quest of Natlan. This will be important in about 20 seconds. To start Natlan, we actually begin in Fontaine, because of course, before we can enter the Nation of War, we need to do some stuff. Leave our friends and say we'll only see them when they do festivals, then change our element from Dendro to Hydro. I told you we were going to be very close to water in this run. After teleporting to a waypoint that I did not know about the first time I did this quest, we actually started Natlan for real this time. Or not, never mind. Focus experience mode, by the way. As we go deeper into Natlan, we come across the actual main character of this first quest, who's a bit of a crybaby.
They keep destroying cities and I don't know how to stop them. Everybody's dead.
Kachina's upset because she's supposed to be taking part in a tournament, and 2 of her teammates just left her, because they're really not trying to deal with the negative Nancy here.
Why are you so negative all the time?
And us being the esteemed fighter and incredibly nice person that we are, let's go with the old guy, because he's not gonna live much longer anyway. Offer to help this poor child. But she declines out of respect for the rules. Okay, lose on your own. This tournament is called the Pilgrimage, and it is basically a battle royale. We went to Fortnite a year ago, and some things have not changed. This tournament is exclusive to Natlani. I was right the first time. And even though Kachina is acting like a big baby, she is forced into doing this event because she bears an ancient name. It's basically a title in each tribe that's given down from generation to generation. Those who have an ancient name have to fight in the games, and since she basically needs all the help she can get right now, we offer to train her. We will somehow make a man out of her. Right after she gives us a tour of Natlan.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
While we're doing our sightseeing, we come across a statue of the Seven, but something's different about this one. We weren't able to absorb its powers. Well, this nation's bugged. We need to patch that out. Mods, fix that, please. Thank you. We explain to Kachina how this doesn't really happen to us often, as we proceed to demonstrate to her that we can swap through multiple different elements seamlessly. Let's see our star pupil give this thing a try then.
Nope. Still just Geo.
We end our tour of the nation at the stadium, which serves as the main center for Natlan. Kachina says that we're supposed to meet some of her friends here, and since there's not a single soul near us, that means we made it to the right spot. As we're talking to her friends, we get interrupted by some new characters, Mualani, Kanich, and Ahau.
Open your eyes, Slope.
They inform us about the tournament and say that when you win the pilgrimage by collecting the Flames of Battle, you are rewarded with the Night Warden Wars, which is another battle, this time with the Abyss. Basically, you fight off the Abyss as long as you can, and you will be
Born again!
with the Ode of Resurrection.
Thing we call the Ode of Resurrection, which does exactly what it sounds like, basically. Resurrect people, you mean?
What else? Literally, what else? You collect fire to keep the fire burning because the burning fire keeps the bad guys away and the good guys alive. Now that the tournament is about to start and Kachina won't stop crying about not having any teammates and the fact that she's on a 7 to 8 straight losing streak, holy L, she guilts Mualani into helping her.
I'm going to kill myself and it's your fault!
That's no reaction.
And after a nice long rest standing up in the middle of the cafeteria, we were ready to watch this tournament unfold. Why is this a hint?
Skill, strategy, fortune, form.
Gold Roger, the king of the pirates, attained this and everything else the world had to offer.
Pilgrimage is not merely a trial to determine the strongest among us.
And since they're all the way out in the country, we cannot possibly watch this, so we swap over to the actual main character of this quest, Kachina, to start the first bit of combat in Natlan. That's right, I'm sorry to that one Hydro Traveler fan in the comments, you're gonna have to wait because it's Kachina time. And by Kachina, I mean Mualani, because genuinely, why in this scenario would I ever want to use Kachina over Mualani? 975 damage compared to 40k? After Mualani pulled off the carry job of the century, we did some pro skating all the way back to the stadium to advance to the next stage. During the intermission, we get to see that Kachina already has some enemies. Beefing with a literal child?
Yo, why is he looking at me like that? What's up, little bud? Got a staring problem, pal? Yo, Zen, get your boy, dog.
Kachina!
Dude, back off.
The next part of the tournament is one-on-ones. But Mom, I don't want to play as Kachina. Half of these fights are cutscenes, and one of which is Kachina getting kicked in the face. But I will give them credit for the final 1v1 with the Ice Lady because there was some thought put into it. It wasn't just smack a treasure hoarder.
Sorry.
They had you actually use mechanics to work around it. Good job, Hoyo. You subverted my expectations. And even after she wins the competition by throwing a comically large drill at Mualani and straight up impaling her, she is still crying.
Just grow some balls.
Now with all 6 of the winners decided, the champions head into battle while we get to crawl, or whatever the is, our way over to the hot springs. After a nice long day of watching people do stuff, we finally get to go to sleep laying down this time. As we arise, we are immediately thrown into combat, and seeing as how Hydro Goku didn't get too much action in Fontaine, Hoyoverse decided to give me a whole nation full of combat for me to use him in. So for the one Hydro Goku fan in the crowd, this one is for you, as we finally begin Natlan combat. Our first enemies were 2 Rift Wolves. My goal here was to try and knock them into the water, which would instantly kill them, but that didn't work for 2 reasons. The first being that there's an invisible wall here, I don't know why, and the second being that they just straight up did not go into the water. Either the water's fake, or it's because they fly. It's been over a year since the Goku Fontaine video, so I'll give you a brief refresher on why this character f***ing sucks. His main damage requires you to stand completely still, and his burst so bad. I've never had to work so hard to get so little value out of anything. Like seriously, just look at this. It's like working a 9 to 5 just to get paid $1. The only redeeming thing about this character is the water droplets that heal you from standing still and shooting. That is it. That is the only thing that makes this character playable in a solo environment, because no matter how many times he gets hit, he will always stand right back up and keep sticking his finger out. After the wolves was a Hydrosaur, and what an experience this was fighting a Hydro enemy, because now my water droplets do even less damage than my dull blade, and he can't even drown because it's a Hydro enemy. They swim in the water. We do have teammates here to help us out though, and I'm not talking about Mualani, it's these guys. The water one goes crazy. I don't know what he's doing, but it looks cooler than my move, so I'm just gonna let him do him. The Dendro Soldier is the one that's actually useful because she can help us make bloom, which is the only reason I'm able to break the 4-digit range against most of these enemies. So after beating the Hydrosaur, the Pyrosaur, and this Dendrosaur that was stuck in the falling animation, we were finally able to destroy the root of this problem, the Abyssal Pylon. This is where the fun begins. I don't know if this was just me or a normal kid thing, but when you were younger, did you ever annoy a parent just because you could, then they'd get mad, so you went off and waited a bit, then came back and annoyed them again and just repeated the cycle? If so, then you will completely understand this next section. The Abyss Pylon has a shield that can only be destroyed with elemental damage, and it is guarded by 2 dinosaurs. I figured there's no point in fighting them because this pylon basically serves as a respawn beacon for them, so there's no need. So all I did was use my skill, run away in a circle, then come back to annoy it again, and then once the shield was down, 2 more wolves joined in, so I was basically having to run in this ginormous circle, making the enemies chase me, so by the time I was near the pylon, I had enough time to shoot it with my finger without having to worry about 4 of them hitting me. Yes, this is literally what I did for about 10 minutes, and it was about as much fun as you could imagine it being. Once we finally destroyed the pylon, we went over to Mualani's friend who has been corrupted by the Abyss.
More obvious that you were hiding something.
But luckily for us, we remembered that one thing we did over 4 years ago, which helped us suck out the abyssal life force for now.
Give me a goddamn life force!
Because as the rest of the city celebrates the temporary defeat of the Abyss, we learn that it was already too late for Antatea, and she leaves us a talisman to give to the Pyro Archon. Plus 4 strength, not bad. Which ends Act 1.
Well, somebody better be dying.
Kachina fell in battle.
With this bit of news, we make our way towards the stadium to witness the Ode of Resurrection. You know, the thing that brings people back from the dead. With everyone else having already been returned from the Abyss, the whole arena chants the Ode to bring back the bearer of the name Kachina. But it didn't work.
That's my son! This is my boy! My boy!
And of course, during this period of confusion, the generational hater twins themselves spawn in and immediately say that she didn't come back because she never really proved herself, so she wasn't eligible to be revived in the first place. This is the first of 3 possible theories surrounding the situation, and as confusion enters the arena, the Pyro Archon hits pause on the pilgrimage and invites the playable characters to her chambers to discuss her theory on the situation. She believes that the reason this happened is because there's too much unrest happening in the Night Kingdom, and because of all the ruckus, she can't locate Kachina. Then we have my theory, which is that since we entered the stadium, which activated the Door of Resurrection, and they sang the Ode of Resurrection, which canceled out each other because you can't double wreck someone at the same time. That just makes no sense. But who cares what I think, because Mavuika uses her title as Archon to carry out her tyrannical reign, okay?
I am Adolf Hitler!
She says that the sacred flame of Natlan is getting weaker and the abyss is only getting stronger, so we need to hurry and find Kachina. And the only way to do that is to go through the Night Kingdom ourselves and retrieve her. So we split off into 2 groups. Gold team is set to go enter the Night Kingdom, while red team is set to stand with the Pyro Archon so they can watch this sick fight, in which Mavuika puts on sunglasses only to disintegrate them later. What was the point? And I get that this is a really cool fight, and don't get me wrong, but Mavuika needs to have some checks and balances for her tyrannical rule because she forcefully grabs Kenichi's greatsword and even breaks it in battle. I hope you had insurance, Kenich. I'm sorry this happened to you. Now it's time for the gold team.
Gold team rules!
After Yoshiing our way up to the mountain, we encounter the head of the clan and ask him how to use the Spirit Seeker Stone, which can help us locate Kachina's ancient name. And once we find her name, we can take it to the Archon, who can then pinpoint her location. The only issue is that finding the name is a very difficult process, and it requires someone with experience to pull it off. Let's go with that guy. Guy agrees to help us so long that we allow him to grab his friend's name after getting Kachina. And once we gather the correct materials, we begin the ritual, which lasted 50 minutes. Dear God. So, this area marks a new change for Goku. Because of the next cutscene in Act 2, we were able to change our weapon. In this scene, you can see that Goku now uses the prototype Rancor, and if you enhance the image even further, you will notice that there is a red tassel on the end and not a white one, meaning that this is a sword that has ascended past 50, and since this series is intended to be lore accurate, I did choose to switch weapons starting now at Act 2. So you can now rejoice in knowing that I can now use a fully leveled up prototype Rancor and still take almost 50 minutes to do this one section. Our damage has spiked up by about 4 times, but that still doesn't mean we're one-shotting enemies left and right. 4 is better than 1, but the enemy has 60k HP, so we're still gonna be here for a minute. The first monsters in this area are the Dendrosaurs. Dealing with these enemies on their own are fine, but when there's 3 of them, it becomes much worse. Our best damage is done by running away from enemies and then finger pointing, but we're trapped in this small ass bubble, and these Yoshis always do their grapple move. Enemies in Genshin tend to have 2 types of attacks. Attacks when the player is close, and attacks when the player is far away. You'll see this with Hilichurls, shield enemies, and the Saurian enemies. The Yoshi's far away attack is a grapple towards the player. So we are on the move for about every 10 seconds. We run around, point, do some damage, and attempt to heal it back up. But the damage really starts to add up when there's 3 of them coming at you at once. And even with all of these complaints, this isn't even the problem with this area. No, it's the next group. The next enemies are a Pyromage and 2 Pyrosaurs. In theory, this should be very good for us since we're stuck with Hydro Traveler. But no, don't get me wrong, it's nice being able to destroy the shield fast, but the mage isn't the problem here. It's the Pyrosaurs. I just mentioned that enemies have 2 attack modes, close and ranged, and the range attacks for the Pyrosaur is a burrow and a flip. I hate this move so much. Once the creature goes underground, he cannot be damaged, but when he comes up and does this flip, I want to break something. I always get hit by this move because it's so big and the enemies don't stop chasing you unless they're right on top of you. You have to be so precise with this dodge, and I could never get it down. I was having a crisis trying to find which enemies to focus on first, because if you focus the Pyromage, you're going to get hit a lot because the Pyrosaurs will follow you and you're not going to be able to see them. If you focus on the Pyrosaurs first, you're going to have to worry about dodging the Pyromage attacks and then the fire on the ground. You cannot stay still in this area. You will get hit.
Oh, you come around this way, you will get caught.
Whether it be the mage or the dinosaurs, you don't have enough space to get some distance and shoot them because of this damn bubble. And where is my help? Chaska and Mualani just straight up disappeared when it started. No wonder this nation's crumbling. When people like this are your saviors, can you do something?
Did it, Patrick! We saved the city!
Eventually, I cracked the code with this area.
I understand it now.
Which consisted of running around and using the tap version of the skill, because that's the only time I could do damage at a distance that was in range of me being able to see the enemies as well as react to their attacks. Plus, the water jet knocked down the Pyrosaurs for just a little bit, which gave me time to get some space. Once I brought about the extinction of the dinosaurs one by one, we broke the Pyromage shield and finally ended this conflict after nearly an hour. And after almost a full hour, Guy here was able to grab Kachina's name, but not his friend. Dude, I'm gonna be honest, that is completely on you. Due to this operation going on for such a prolonged period of time, the machine begins to destabilize and Guy is running out of time. We tried sucking out the Abyss's life force from the guy, but it wasn't enough. He still could not find his friend's name, and Chaska decided to blow this thing up. Okay, so now you want to help. Then Mualani has the gall to complain about not having enough time to react to the explosion, and it's like, okay, do something, please! We then take the ancient name over to Mavuika, who takes everyone into her storage unit that holds all of the different items she's stolen throughout her dictatorship. She even did this for her own family photo. What? She forcefully took a piece of leather from her dad's armor and demanded that an artist paint them on it. What a cruel woman. After some more forced dialogue, trying to make us like this tyrant, we finally get to see Kachina, and you'll never guess what she's doing. Yep, but we're on our way to save her now. Gold Team is back with the Yansan, who, fun fact, if you haven't noticed by now, I have actually removed her from some of the cutscenes simply because she literally has done nothing at this point. I'm sorry, but she hasn't done anything. And I was very curious to see if some of you guys would notice. So if you see her popping in and out of existence, then you'll have paid more attention to her than the developers did. I'm gonna keep doing this, but if she does something of note, I will let you know. The first fight was against 2 Dendrosaurs and 2 Hydrosaurs. Now, I tried to be nice and walk right past them, but we couldn't do it. So we had to shoot down the Dendrosaurs and beat down the Hydrosaurs. And for all those people that asked me to use a sword that wasn't the dull blade in these past videos, I better see some hype comments in this video, because this is what you were asking for. After that, we had, you son of a b****, the literal exact same group of enemies that we just fought.
I played these games before! I said I played these games before!
Thankfully, this wasn't nearly as time-consuming because we had plenty of space to move around and deal damage to the enemies. Once we finished them off in a much quicker time frame than the previous attempt, we went to the next area to fight some more Hilly Churls and a Geobiggy Churl. And looking back at these fights, I feel that I should say, even though I give Hydro Goku a lot of shit, I feel like for a solo traveler run, he is the one that works best simply because of the healing. Him being able to heal is the only redeeming factor about this character, and it's crazy how much that carries on. This character still feels awful to play, but knowing I don't have to spam feed Goku food to heal him is quite nice.
I told you, when I'm finished, you can have what's left.
Once we took down the large creature, we reached the actual Night Kingdom, which is crawling with abyssal energy. Luckily for us, Guy's friend is still here in his imperfect form, and he offers us a barrier to protect us. Now, if it were up to me, I would have had Traveler carry everyone on his back and suck the ground while he moves forward onto the land. But you know, no one asked me, so that's nice. Appreciate that, Malik. Appreciate that, dog. As we journey across, we eventually find Kachina and try to make our way out of here. Kachina tries to talk to a rock, but unsurprisingly, it doesn't want to talk to her. We then turn around to find that we've been cornered by a Pyro Abyss Lector. Oh, nice. It's just one guy, and Hydro Goku can easily destroy his shield, and of course, we don't even get to use him. Mualani finally decides to do something, and she chooses to take him on with Kachina. And she gets rewarded with the ancient name Tupac because she jumped in to help her friend? You could have gotten that like an hour ago if you helped me. Why is she the exception? Help me, please. I've been dying for a whole afternoon. After healing the rock that was ignoring Kachina, the YOB explains to her that giving her the ancient name was not an accident, which makes her cry again. And as Asili enters a conveniently placed podium, we get a wind gust and try to escape the fog that's coming. Yansan then fades into existence so as to destroy a rock, and even though we swap over to Animo, we weren't able to use the power of wind to propel us forward enough to escape, and we become stuck in the night. Mavuika then decides to blow up this part of Natlan so she can build Mavuika Land, and it just so happens that we were right under the explosion, which allows us to escape. Look at this tyrant. She didn't even do this for us because she called this a superficial victory, and she even sold all of her stolen goods just so she could afford the construction of the amusement park. I'm gonna be sick. To celebrate the start of the construction of Mavuika Land, we hold a dance party and finish the second act of Natlan. After that, we stand perfectly still for 2 whole days in a public area, and then we begin Natlan Act 3. To start, we go over to Catherine and learn that Mavuika is preparing the nation for war, and at the moment, we can just relax. Well, good, because I'm the only one who's ever done anything yet. Kachina then interrupts us, but she's unable to speak. Due to the trauma she endured from the Abyss, Kachina cried so much that eventually the Night Kingdom just got tired of it and removed her vocal cords. She uses sign language to tell us that we are supposed to get an ancient name forged by Shalonen. Upon meeting Shalonen, she is shocked because we aren't from around here, and Mavuika just chose not to tell her that, I guess. She basically gave Shalonen a near impossible task because in order to get an ancient name from a YOB, you have to be A, Natlanese, and B, have done heroic deeds in the nation of Natlan. That's crazy. Imagine if somebody saved the Earth and he still couldn't be honored in Natlan simply because he didn't do it on their territory. Since we're in a bit of a pickle, she suggests consulting Seat Lolly to help us, who is an expert on all things Night Kingdom and YOB related. She's also the one who made the device that Chaska blew up, so that's another person I hope had insurance in this nation. Shalonen takes us over to the stadium and hopes that we encounter the old woman, and just as Paimon starts talking she appears.
So, yes, Granny Eatsley, but emphasis on Eatsley. face. This is the spot. Lady that doesn't look her age.
So, she's not the first character to have this problem, and she will not be the last. All Archon quests in this game have this issue. Trust me, I know from experience. The S problem has just been more noticeable in Natlan to the public eye. This has nothing to do with the story, I just felt like it needed to be mentioned. And all characters have this problem, it's not just a Seat Lolly problem. This is Granny Seat Lolly. She says that the only way for us to possibly get an ancient name is from the Lord of the Night, who sees over the Night Kingdom and fights off against the Abyss Corrosion. But the issue with them is that they are currently in a coma, and we can only communicate with them in their dreams. So in order to do that, Jalonen is going to find the correct materials, and we are going to help Seat Lolly find Ororon, a missing member of her tribe that's gotten involved with the wrong people. During our pursuit, Goku begins to ponder, which leads to us being vulnerable and getting our soul separated from our body from out of nowhere by Ororon. He brought our soul into the night world to tell us that the captain wants to meet us in person to discuss how to save Natlan from the Abyss and the Tyrannical Mavuika. We then get our soul returned, and Seat Lolly takes us over to Ororon's location. He's currently being guarded by Fatui agents, so it's our job to deal with them.
Hey, quit daydreaming. Don't you have work to do?
I cannot see the sun. Without the sun, I cannot see the truth.
Huh?
And is this dude the f***ing president? Because he has almost every single Fatui agent type guarding him. Seriously, he's only missing these two. The first wave was a Hydro Gunner, Electro Hammer, and the Stealth one. These three kicked my ass on the first attempt. And since the Hydro and Electro shields aren't weak to Goku, I knew we were gonna have a long fight. So I implemented a new strategy. I became a Yoshi and walked over to the fight so that way we could use Dendro damage to destroy the Hydro shield quickly. That did not work at all. So I had a new plan. Appreciate the help. I knew that the Hydro Gunner was a problem because he can heal the other enemies, so we had to find a way to deal with him, but we can't fight him while dodging the other two because that's just not gonna happen. The goal now was to isolate the stealth agent since he doesn't have an elemental shield, and the way we did this was by bringing him on top of the hill. By doing this, he was out of line of sight from the Hydro Gunner, so he could not be healed. Once we took him down, we walked out of the mission area to reset the enemy's health, then went back in onto the Hydro Gunner. I chose him over the hammer because I didn't want to deal with the healing, and I felt that I could dodge the hammer while hitting the gunner. After we beat the gunner, we reset the Electro Hammer and defeated the last three agents without any hiccups. Once we freed Ororon from his non-existent chains, he calls us Gramps, which honestly makes more sense than Seat Lolly. Then we take him over to the stadium for questioning. After yet another night of standing still, we meet up with the captain after he does a magic trick of appearing from the wall when nothing was there before. I promise you there was nothing. He tells us that the tyrant has two plans to try and save Natlan. The first of which involves using all 6 heroes, but that's a risky move since we only have 4 of them at the moment. And there's no telling if all of them will appear in time. If they aren't all there, then Natlan could fall and the other nations would suffer alongside. The second plan is the emergency button. The captain tells us that the backup plan can work, but there is a lot to consider with the decision, and he fears that she can't make the right choice in time, so we have to make it for her. And even though he admits to losing the battle, he still wants to save Natlan from the tyrant. As we continue discussing our ideals, the captain slips away because he hears a slithering sound in the grass.
Something. Bad news, chump. It's your granny.
Granny heard that Ororon was hungry, so she gave him a knuckle sandwich and tries to punish him even more. But we convince her out of it, saying that this is no place to discipline a grown-ass man. Ororon disappears, and Seat Lolly decides to tell us what his deal is.
We can find somewhere to sit down and talk. You scratch my back, I scratch yours.
Well, Jules, the funny thing about my back is that it's located on my cock.
Basically, Ororon's soul was born incomplete, and the people in his tribe wanted to use his body as a vessel to carry lost souls back to the Night Kingdom, which would strengthen the ley lines. So it's basically the trolley problem. They chose to save him, and ever since, Ororon has felt like he's needed to help save Natlan because of this. With the backstory over, we finally decide to get some actual sleep and awake to the news that the entire country is at war right now. But before we go help the country, we decide to go rat out the captain's plan to Mavuika. We are so lame for doing this. We then go over to the Geo tribe and help defend their caravan from these abyssal creatures. And even though we have a stacked team, we can't really use them. You might think that this might be another fight of me complaining about Hydro Traveler, but no. This fight wasn't a problem at all because all we had to do was destroy a stationary object, and we had 2 actual teammates that helped us. When Hydro Goku can hit all of his water droplets on a target that can't fight back, he can do an okayish amount of damage. After the battle, we regroup with the new gold team and try to figure out what the Fatui are looking for. And once we return to the stadium, we find out that Chaska and her sister Koichi found what they were looking for. After Koichi quite literally threw a piece of shit she discovered that the Fatui were not only helping people, but looking for this device called the Source Mechanism, but we have no idea what that is. And that's pretty much how Act 3 ends. Act 4 starts with Mavuika summoning us to her chambers so we can make a plan to stop the captain. He's putting his plan of saving Natlan into motion, but Mavuika fears the safety of her people, so she makes us, Kanich, and Shalonen put a stop to it. But Kanich brings up a good point.
I agree with Kanich.
So it looks like we need to move now in order to stop him. The first obstacle in our path is a Cryo Fatui Gunner and an Animo Boxer. I implemented the same strategy as last time by using a Dendrosaur as our main source of damage. I literally only did this because its attacks do more damage than Hydro Goku's. I was perfectly content with doing just this until their health bars went down. But when the Cryo Shield came up, I stopped trying with the Dendrosaur because the Cryo Gunner's close range spray attack could very easily destroy us, so we swapped back into base form and gunned him down.
Job smashing those rocks, Mavuika! You look super cool.
Once we made it inside the cave, we encountered 3 more Fatui agents, but sadly, none were weak to us. For the invisible one, it was basically just spraying into the dark until we eventually hit something. Shortly after, we killed the Boxer, then left the area and came back so we could deal some damage to the Cryo Gunner without having to go through the shield first. Once we defeated him, we got our Dendrosaur's powers back and used it to deal a majority of the Secret Source Automaton Hunter Seeker's health bar. Yes, that is its actual name. And I'll use this opportunity to glaze myself a little bit, because looking back at this footage, I kinda locked the fuck in, because I had only 18 health and I survived for 3 minutes against this machine without getting hit. Once our Yoshi died, we gave it the old finger poke of doom and made our way down to the captain and Auroron, who are currently using the Source Mechanism to try and fix the ley lines, but it's too late.
It's too late.
They powered on the mechanism, but we still have a chance to stop it because it's not too late. And poor f***ing Capitano. Dude was about to win, but Auroron just decided to throw his game by having the tweak of the week, which gave us enough time to turn off the device. Auroron's soul was taken over by one of the captain's former soldiers, but he was able to shake it off and return to his own body. And because Auroron avoided a potential crash out, he gets his ancient name awakened. The Lord of the Night Kingdom is also awake now, so hey.
Lord of the Night? As in the one who rules over the Night Kingdom?
This device was made to strengthen the ley lines by imbuing them with power, but now the ley lines have changed so much that they need to be rebuilt, and the Lord offers himself to be a sacrifice to help save Natlan. But of course, the dictator forces them to not kill themselves because it would damage people's memories and leave them with cognitive issues such as free thinking, which could challenge her rule. The man of the people, Capitano, stands up to her and says that the future doesn't matter if we can't save the present, which leads into the two having an argument.
Mom, Dad, please stop fighting.
The captain is a survivor of Conria's massacre and doesn't want to see that happen to another nation, but the tyrant doesn't want anything to happen to her rule. Unfortunately, Capitano can't convince someone who doesn't listen, so he gives into her command and gives her the Fatui soldiers to help her fight the Abyss until the last hero shows up. Mavuika informs us that when all 6 heroes are active, we can use the power that Shibalanke once used from the Ruler of Death, which will basically kill the Abyss for now. At night, Shalonen and Seat Lolly sneak away from the city to speak with the Lord. They ask if there's any way to make an ancient name for Goku, and she says it would take the life of the craftsman. Lamau, see ya, Shalonen. We're the main character. But if we want the name, we need a way to keep track of our good deeds for the day. So she gives them an iPad to give us. The Lord also informs them more about Mavuika's plan, and she says that she will die and freedom will once again ring in Natlan. The next day comes and we begin the section. If you played Act 4 before, you know exactly what I'm talking about. War.
War is hell.
With our new iPad, we need to go help the people of Natlan against the ongoing abyssal attacks. We need to reach these hotspots, connect to them, beat down the enemies, record it, and then move on. And the only way we can get to these locations is by using hot air balloons.
There are warriors fighting everywhere. Warriors fighting, warriors fighting, warriors fighting, warriors fighting, warriors fighting.
The first hotspot has us fight a couple of Hilly Churls and a Biggie Churl. That was almost dead, so I don't really know why these guys needed us for this, but we'll take the stat padding. We then had to choose which area to go towards next, and seeing how one of them had much easier enemies to deal with, it was not even a question. After our second hot air balloon ride, we quickly removed the Hilly Churls and headshotted the Biggie Churl with the help of these 3 guys who kept smacking them. The third battle was yet another easy choice between Hilly Churls and those damn near unkillable wolves, so the choice was very clear. This fight brings back the Abyss pylon gimmick, and luckily we had plenty of meat shields to distract the Hilly Churls because we just walked past everyone and shot at the pylon until it got destroyed. After that, Goku and the Geosaur double teamed the Electro Abyss Mage, and we were ready to reach the next stage of the war. And we didn't have a choice. There was only one spot left, but it's still just Hilly Churls. Let's go! And I'm not gonna lie, when we have people to take the enemy's attention, Hydro Goku can put in some work. We're basically just a hitman that gets behind the enemies and just keeps shooting them. We can't be a sniper though because these bullets have the range of a gnat's dick, But these Natlani's people are great distractions. Shortly after, an abyssal pylon spawns in alongside 2 more enemies. Here is a great example of out-of-the-box thinking, so all you have to do is destroy the pylon and the enemies disappear. It worked in Act 1, and it worked here. And it is worth it! I'm not fighting these elite enemies if I don't have to. That health bar is way too big for what we're working with. After a short rest, those rabble-rousers return with another pylon, so it's time for Agent 47 to complete his assignment. And following not 1, not 2, but 3 abyssal pylons all in the same area, we destroyed each of them without killing a single enemy. Look what happens when you play the objective. Once we smack the hell out of a hilly churl, we get to see the source of the abyss's power manifest itself over the stadium, which means that things are getting pretty bad. But our soldiers are putting in work. Just look at this girl punch a hilly churl and this electro hammer hitting the dog piss out of that geosaur. Yes! The abyss have now locked in, so we're going to be facing much more of these enemies. First up are more of the dinosaurs, but we already have some of our side, so we're just going to watch these animals battle. We're helping a little bit, but it's more of a involved bystander role. But towards the end, we encounter a new type of enemy, and one that is very annoying. They are called the Tenebrious Mimiflora. I'm not going to say that, but I'll just call them mimics, because what they do is turn into a different enemy, and you have to defeat that enemy first in order to hit their true body. What makes them annoying is that you have to break their shield, which can only be harmed by elemental damage. Now, it's not like an abyss shield. This shield does not discriminate against any element. However, it only takes into account the quantity of hits, not the quality. So if you bring out the Musou no Hitotachi, that shield does not care. If you hit it 10 times with Barbara, that thing's a goner. Goku does surprisingly decent against the shields because of his water droplets. It takes about 1.5 Goku clips to destroy these shields, which leads to us hitting the base form, and that's a mess. Their moveset isn't bad. It's mainly just a matter of we don't do damage, and they're pretty insecure about their bodies, so they try to return to their mimic state as fast as possible. This battle in the next area weren't too bad, but things changed once we made it past the mimics. This is when the war became really obnoxious, and that's because they spammed the wolf enemies. Seriously, they love the wolves starting at this point. Wolves by themselves aren't much of a problem, they're just tanky for some reason, but when they're in the pack, it is a nightmare, simply because the corrosion stacks with each other. And since we also drain our own health with attacks, we might as well be on their side in this battle. We can't use our held version. The burst is still useless. I haven't even talked about it since Act 1. We can't play far away from them because their range attack is a teleport, and we can't get close because they'll just jump us. We are basically stuck with the same strategy for the bubble area in Act 2. We can only walk in a circle and tap the skill. For 13 minutes, this was all we did. And at the very least, they basically all died together because they were following me in a straight line. The next area was almost quite literally the exact same as this one, aside from like 1 or 2 enemies. I'm mainly going to mention it just because the strategy of killing the stationary object and winning sadly doesn't work here. We had to actually play the game. Oh my god. After that, the monsters were 2 wolves and a big wolf, but believe it or not, this was a much easier battle than the 4 wolves. I think it's because the big wolf isn't as much of a threat because it's too slow to keep up with the smaller ones, and its attacks have a much more of a delay to them. Following the battle, we had a 4-minute and 15-second balloon ride over to the next fight. And during this, I'll comment on the hot air balloons in general. In total, throughout this quest, you are on the balloon for over 6.5 minutes. And whenever you teleport to the locations, it has a hot air balloon loading screen, so the assumption is that you rode one over there. Now, I get what they were going for with these. It makes you feel helpless because of how long it takes to try and get to another place. I don't mind it too much, I'll be honest. I do think the last ride could have been a little shorter, but overall, it's fine. It's whatever to me. But I do have a genuine question. Why could we, the Traveler, not use our teleport waypoints or the Statue of the Sevens to reach these places? I know that normal people in the world cannot use them because they just don't know how.
What the f***? This piece of shit.
It's a genuine question. Why couldn't we use it? I don't know if I missed it in the dialogue or if there's some hidden lore, but if anyone has the answer, just say, hey, Jack, timestamp, then the answer, and I'll like the comment and maybe pin it, who knows. So yeah, I'm calling you out, loreheads in the comments. We then head over to the geocamp and meet up with Shilonen and the Mute. Shilonen tells her to stay with her parents, and it's our job to help her clear out the monsters present here. The enemies are basically just mimics, with the most troublesome one being the one that copied the secret source automaton Hunter Seeker. Yes, I'm going to keep saying the full name. Once we left the geo area, the Mute signs to us that Chaska's animal tribe needs help, so we head over there to give them some aid. Upon meeting Chaska, we see that her sister is in danger, so we have to hurry and beat these monsters. And I can see why she's in danger because she gave us some trouble. Now, Chaska, I know you want to protect her, but I feel the best way to do that is to help me. You have a bow. Shoot them, please. You can stay by her and help, I promise you. As a result of Chaska's refusal to help us, we weren't able to suck away the abyssal energy in time, and she dies right in Chaska's arm. You get what you fucking deserve. Oh, boo. My sister died when I could have helped save her.
Oh, I don't care if it's mean.
And to reward her selfishness, she gets an ancient name. What is wrong with this place? Chaska then carries the corpse back into the stadium, and the tyrant's like, yeah, cool. Now we have the 6 heroes here. And now that the ceremony's commenced, with Mavuika deciding to leave everyone behind and making them fight the Abyss, now everyone in Natlan is basically immortal, meaning that the dictator is making them feel death for as long as this battle continues. Our first objective now is to destroy the Abyss tumor, and I thought that we were going to get some help because we had to destroy 2 pylons and fight off 6 enemies at once, but no, I had to painstakingly dodge and maneuver my way around this area to eventually destroy 1, and then Mavuika decides to help. What the f? Thankfully, her mortar strikes cleared the enemies out, and we were able to destroy the first tumor.
Miserable dregs of the Abyss. Kneel before.
A house coming in way too hot. Is it possible to mute him?
How dare you, you insolent, contempt.
Done.
Thank you, Mavuika.
The audacity of all people to ask that.
What a sick joke!
The rest of these fights aren't even fights, to be honest. They're cool visuals, but not much substance. All that happens is we land and Mavuika kill steals from everyone.
Do not fire on the buildings.
Is there anything she can't take from us at this point? So why am I even here? I'm not even trying to get philosophical. She's doing this on her own. Why does she need me? Eventually, everyone else realizes this also, so we all meet up at the stadium so Mavuika can do her thing. And she's still dropping bombs on us. Mavuika then decides that she wants to end this in one punch man and hits the Abyss so hard that it breaks a piece of the sky off. Yet another person that needs insurance in this nation. What a travesty. As this battle concludes,
Woo! Alright!
the tyrant informs us that the battle actually isn't over yet, but she will finish off this battle in the Night Kingdom on her own. Except she's not going to do it on her own because she makes us help her. Act 4 comes to a close with the captain asking the Lord of the Night for one last favor. And man, what a cliffhanger. Too bad we have to do filler.
I don't want to hear.
Just prepare to be amazed.
Huh? Oh, my back!
I'm gonna do my best to make this as brief as possible. As a result of the war, some of the soldiers here turned into Genshin Impact players, so we gotta help them. We cure the first guy by turning into a big bird, we help the next person by letting them beat the out of the Abyss, and we gun down the last guy to save him. The captain then shows up to make this act mean something by introducing a medicine called the Drought of Lucidity, which can help people who have been corrupted by the Abyss, but at the cost of migraines for the rest of their life. This medicine was made by Capitano's second-in-command, Gunthryd, aka the guy who took over Auroran's body for a second there. The captain then does a face reveal, and Shalodin says that her ancient name is just about ready, but she needs everyone to glaze us first, and that's how the filler arc ends. Now let's get back to the main story. After standing still in the cafeteria again for another 2 days, Act 5 starts us in a dream where we roam the Night Kingdom. We see a bunch of lost souls trying to enter the area, and Capitano just standing there like he's watching over his dogs at the park. Goku then wakes up and heads over to Mavuika's throne room so we can finish crafting our ancient name. And since our iPad has tracked our good deeds, this should only take half a day. So the working class goes to deal with that while the elites discuss their battle tactics. Mavuika says that the battle will take place in 3 days, and it will only be just the 2 of us. Paimon will not be there. Finally, the weight has been dropped.
And the memories bring back your...
I won't forget you, buddy.
King Mavuika then tells Paimon that nothing bad can happen to us because of the Ode of Resurrection. You know, the thing that resurrects people.
Yep.
As long as the people of Natlan cheer for us, we will keep coming back, and they will keep cheering for us. We then split off from each other, and Kachualani shows up and quietly invites us over to a party, so that the tyrant can't hear us. We then run all the way over to the function, but unfortunately, Mavuika's spies tracked her location and found us. Well, it was fun while it lasted. After some very meaningful conversations, Mavuika forces everyone into revealing their dreams, and since our dream was the best, without a doubt, she makes Auroran use a banned technique to look into our dreams. The Abyss is the only thing saving this nation at this point. After Freud examines our dream, we head back to the function, and since Mavuika kinda made this whole thing awkward, everyone decides to leave. And big ups for Kachina here because she gives us a way out by offering a trip over to her tribe. Can we get some claps in the chat for Kachina, please? Thank you.
Hey, remember when you first arrived in Natlan? It was still light out, and we traveled on this road together.
Kachina, that was like a week ago. During the journey, we encounter Kachina's pet Io, who is currently going through a bit of depression. Oh, come on, kid, I promise you. Life is only going to get worse from here on. His parents died in the war arc. I think it was these.
They all look alike! Not cool, Sonic.
Additionally, Io is currently dealing with Genshin Impact, aka the abyssal corrosion syndrome that these guys had. So we decide to give him a little bit of the medicine that's designed for humans. I'll be honest, I don't think it works like that, but here I stand corrected. Look at his little dance. Once we made it to the Geo tribe, we scratch our head, a lot and receive our ancient name, Tumaini. Wait, Shalonen, aren't you supposed to be dead?
Anyways, I should be getting back to hell now.
But we then decide to take this thing out for a spin, and after Seatlolly absolutely glazes Goku's soul, we notice that there is a lot of lost souls appearing in this area. If these souls don't get returned to the Night Kingdom, then they disappear forever. So Seatlolly needs to hurry up and save them, but she can't save everyone. I wonder which one she's gonna choose.
Is this the punishment I deserve?
The last pair of souls are that of 2 Geosaurs, and wouldn't you know it, it just so happens to be Io's grandparents. Seatlolly offers to save them, but they choose to not accept it, which means that they get to suffer the consequences and we get to start the finale. After another 2 days of standing still, Mavuika gives a speech to her fans, then we begin our journey to the end. Once we're in the Night Kingdom, Mavuika suggests that we split up. We'll go left while she goes right. The combat down here starts us out with Mavuika, and there's not much to say since the combat is just using the motorcycle. No Akira slide, sadly, but we did hit for over 100k, which is a number that I don't think Goku will be hitting anytime soon. And speaking of Goku, let's see how the left side works for him. To start, we have to fight the Abyss Wolves, but luckily for us, we have teammates to help us here, because no one fights alone in Natlan, which I can tell you from experience, that statement is bullshit. And if you are curious, yes, the friendlies do more damage than me. Once we clear out the last of the wolves, we have to destroy the Abyss Pylon, and it is quite funny seeing how eager my teammates are to destroy this thing. I promise you guys I'm trying, but you're gonna have to give me 10 seconds. Unfortunately for me, Auntie Atea and her friends choose to stay here, which means that the next area allies us with Guy and Guy's friend, who is now in his perfect form.
Check out my perfect form. It's perfect.
Yeah, Guy died in the war, by the way. Guy's friend's barrier skills seem to have improved, and as we make our way over to the next fight, I can see why Guy chose to not fight with us in the Bubble Bowl. This is not it. Up next is a mimic of the Secret Source Automaton Hunter Seeker, who seemingly had an indestructible shield, until Capitano's right hand chose to make this the easiest fight of my life. Thank you. But all good things must come to an end, which is why after a minute and a half, we had to leave them here and progress to the next section. This area has Koichi give us access to all the Saurians here, so now we get to walk the dinosaur. First up is the Cryosaur and this stupid jump. Next is the flying one, where we get to deliver an airstrike. After that, we get acknowledged by Altogether, and we finally unlock Pyro Traveler. Never mind. We then make our way over to Mavuika using the Geo, Dendro, and Hydrosaur's powers to reach her. And let me make a statement on this cutscene. This would not have happened. Those bubbles would have hit them for like 500 and went back into Natlan. The Abyss takes the form of a dragon with a sword, while we take the form of Pyro Traveler. It's finally here, and is my prediction of Pyro Traveler from all those years ago correct? Well, in this context, yes it is. I'm not gonna spend much time on the dragon here because it's one of those things to where it's like, it looks like he's doing a lot, but in reality, he's not really hitting us. So Pyro Goku will be the talk of the town. In this particular fight, this character is pretty good, not gonna lie. He does fit my prediction in this fight, and because in this battle specifically, we have C6, which gives us stat buffs and ability buffs, as well as a flat buff from the tribes. So we are doing the most damage we've ever done in this run, and probably will ever do. The tap skill makes us basically have the Animo Traveler passive, but on every attack, and the attacks, and it's Pyro. The hold skill gives us a ring that deals Pyro damage when we attack, and the burst is just a little explosion. It's not that crazy. During the battle, Shibalonke takes our controller away, and Mavuika decides to help. On the outside, the Sacred Flame goes out, which causes Kachina to break out into a song.
Are the crystal gems?
That's a joke. The flame actually comes back because of the Ode of Resurrection. You know, the thing that resurrects people. And with this chant of evil energy, our ancient name awakens and we are given new powers to help Mavuika. We reach our hands inside the flame and together we raise the sword so we can bring the BOOM onto the abyss. The time is coming to an end. It's now or never. Or I guess you could say right now, it's boom or doom. And with the help of our friends, Shalonen, Mualani, the Costco guys, and Mavuika's friends, Stalin and Hitler, the newest member of the Costco guys and Satan's greatest soldier, dropped a big BOOM onto Gasoitha, hitting it for over 1 million damage. Ladies and gentlemen, Goku has done the impossible. He actually did some damage. With the battle over, Mavuika decides to leave this place by committing one last sin and stealing the Abyss's motorcycle, then returning us back into the nation of Natlan with a warm embrace. After consulting with her PR manager,
Fine.
Mavuika decides to let us hog the spotlight so she can get some good publicity. Our celebration includes a crown that we will definitely keep, some photos, autographs, and of course, dancing. St. Lolly then interrupts our dance to inform us that Mavuika is doing something very dangerous, so she takes us over there to stop her. Well, that's not disturbing at all. This is the ruler of death, and because Mavuika used her power in the war, she demands a sacrifice, which is why Mavuika selflessly offers the captain to be a sacrifice. Mavuika has successfully gaslit the captain into thinking he should kill himself.
Because what are you here for? To worship me? Kill yourself.
Because the ruler of death is the one that made him immortal, it has caused him to carry the souls of his army from all of those years ago. But how can you kill someone that's immortal? I don't know, and the captain doesn't know either. But that's what he intends to find out. The answer is that you're just, stuck in a chair down here. Oh well, at least Mavuika says that he won a duel, so the score is even now. Our journey in Natlan ends with us offering up our crown to the memorial dedicated to those who lost their lives in the war, and looking at the sacred flame burn one last time to signal the continuation of tyranny. Now it's onwards to the next adventure, which should be Snezhnaya, the home of the Cryo Archon. But until then, Goku will be standing perfectly still for the next nation. And hopefully he can still use the prototype Rancor.
Tell me why